Welcome to Tone Talks. Welcome to Tone Talks. Welcome to Tone Talks.
What up, y'all? This is Antonio Moore coming to you from Tone Talks. Apologize for being a bit late. Jumped in here, had to switch studios. But we're going to have a discussion today about the rise of legacy. Appreciate everybody tuning in. I know everybody's been looking forward to this discussion. I just want to start off on the top and just tell y'all, we're going to be talking about Jay Morrison next week. We're going to have that discussion, make sure we get through that. So today, what we're going to do is Rise of Legacy. Again, it's an open invitation for him to come on next week. We can set that up. But this week, we're going to have Rise of Legacy, and I'm going to have my guest, Yvette Cornell, come in here and bless us. Yvette, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, thank you so much for waiting while we got everything set up. I'm hoping to have this discussion to kind of lay the framework for the next week's discussion. Because we got a lot of people who think they know about America but don't know about America. Who think they know about wealth but don't know about wealth. Who don't understand that legacy has risen and what that means for black folk. You know what I'm saying, Yvette?
I know exactly what you're saying.
Oh, man. So let me tell everybody first off, this is Dash Radio. Press the Dash Talk button. You can go to Tone Talks YouTube. The call-in is going to be a little different this week. 323-230-4445. We're going to have this lively discussion. But let me set it up. What I want to do is explain to you guys what I mean by rise of legacy. In so many ways, what I see is I gave an equation, which is lineage plus current family plus income equals wealth. Lineage is like, your parents back. What did they leave you? How did they think about you? How were they set up in the society? Were they kings or slaves? And I'm not saying that in judgment. I'm just talking real deal data. Then I look at current family, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters. Come on, your kids. What's the social value? What's the wealth value? I know when Trump went broke, his sister could write that $10 million check. Come on. Then the last thing is income. That's when you go to work and make your money. That's when you get your real estate properties to feed you back. That residual income everybody talk about. But the three together make up wealth. Now, I'm pulling up a chart on YouTube. I'm going to pull this up. And what I'm going to show you guys is that you got to understand that income was big for a long time. It done shrunk. The dirty feet of America's history are popping out from under the covers of income. So income was so big that it covered up the reality of our lack of wealth. When you look at this chart that I'm showing, it explains it all. It shows that we had the same amount of wealth in the bottom 90 and the top 0.1 during the Gilded Age. That was about 20% of the wealth. That's when it's extreme wealth inequality, dangerous levels of wealth inequality. During the course of a period all the way to 1980 from that Depression era, what you saw as a result of progressive policy, the New Deal, FDR, Lyndon Johnson, affirmative action. You saw all kind of abilities and ways for the bottom 90 to grow the amount of wealth share they had to the point where the bottom 90 was taking home 37% of the wealth. That's why your grandma that can't read that well bought a house. Come on. That's why you go to college now and all of a sudden you can't buy a house. Come on, follow me. Whereas the top 0.1 was only taking home 7% of the wealth. That's it. We're in a different era. Now it's 2018. Look at the other side of the chart. Both groups are taking home 22% of the wealth again. That's why we have billionaires. That's why they can sell us on Maybachs, but not good neighborhoods. The fundamental reality is the lay of the land shows that the rise of legacy is real. Everything I'm telling you goes against what you think. You saw your grandma do it with two hands at the post office. Shouldn't I be able to do it? I went to Stanford. None of that matters when you look at the lay of the land. The only thing that matters is your timing. And the only thing that matters is the politics that will change the dynamic around you. Yvette, you want to chime in before I jump into these articles? That's how we're going to frame this discussion today.
No, I think you're exactly right. Like, nobody understands timing. And I think we keep seeing these phenomena. I know you're doing the Jay Morrison show on Friday, and then before that, I think we had the Bitcoin, and now they're saying the Bitcoin, the NSA might have been involved in that, trying to amass capital for some of their projects. So, we don't know. But what I'm saying is that we have concurrently all of these. We need to watch ourselves how we jump into this, because we don't know. See, we don't know what you just said about the eye getting big. Income used to be big, so it's to hide the lineage, and it's not there anymore. When you don't know that, you don't do your due diligence. You jump into anything because you feel like there's no time and everything's the same, like everything is static, and so that's why we're here.
I agree. And what you also feel is I can make it up. You don't really understand, like, we got our whole mindset like slavery was a long time ago because that income was big. I know y'all like, what do you mean the income was big? I mean, look, you had people that was working in factories making $20 an hour in the 80s. That's like $75 or $80 an hour today. While people today got a college degree and they driving Uber. Uber didn't exist in the 80s. You work 9 to 5 and go home to a house you own. Understand what I'm saying to you. What I'm saying to you is that they done pulled a rug over our head and everybody looking on the other way. You got to get the rug off your head. You reaching out with the rug still on your head thinking that's how you solve things. Transformative government cuts a hole in that rug so you can see. At least. Come on. And so here we go. I'm going to frame this thing around articles today. I usually do questions, but I'm going to do articles today. And those articles are basically going to set up the whole discussion. It's a series of articles. I'm going to go through those first, and then I'm going to go through each one. The first article is going to be called The Rise of Legacy. I wrote it some years ago on Huffington Post, 2013. I was telling everybody it's about to be something else. I said legacy is going to rise, and everybody was like, oh, what do you mean? My mama house is worth something. You got to understand, I always had to think about this stuff. My parents had me, like I tell everybody all the time, 16, 17. So I ain't had no boomer parent to make me have to think about the 70s and how good it was then. I had to figure this out. Now I done figured it out, and I'm trying to share it with y'all. You ain't got to listen, but you going to feel it. So I'm telling you right now that the legacy has risen. In that first article, I'm going to break down what I mean by that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to share a little letter that went out, or I should say an investment package that went out by Citigroup back in 2004. I read this in 2004 and understand that what they were doing was they were telling everybody in their high yield group, their high level investors, that a plutonymy was coming. They were saying a plutonymy, and I'll explain what that means, but that means when the wealth is hoarded. So they knew it back in 2004. This is what kind of triggered me to start looking into all of this. But they've scrubbed it off the internet. I pulled a copy that I've had since 2004 in my email, in my little, chest, my war chest. I do have a little war chest, so don't come on my channel unless you're ready for me to dig in there. And so I'm going to share that with you guys so you guys can hear what they were talking about in 2004. They was prepping for y'all. With the pitchforks come out, how we going to get food, where we going to live, all that stuff is in here. They been known this was going to happen. You didn't. The next article I'm going to talk about is how rich kids are counting on inheritance to pay for retirement. Come on. Yvette, they out here counting on grandma paying for their retirement. We talking about how we going to save for our retirement $500 at a time with 8% interest, right?
We gonna catch them though. We gonna catch them with that 5%.
We gonna catch them. We chocolate covered white people. Come on, they're not ready. I mean, I say in so many ways, I'm not here and I'm not playing. I don't really talk just from a perspective of my own understanding of this. I stand on the shoulder of giants. I've talked to Byron Allen, who I pretty much believe he's among the richest black people in the country, but he may be the richest now with the acquisition of the Weather Channel at that price. And I talked to him like 100 hours. Y'all be like, why you bring up Byron? Because he the richest. That's why. Yeah, and I put the interview with him on my channel for you guys. It took me a long time to get this man to talk that way. It wasn't just easy. It wasn't just like, I want to do an interview. Nah, I was like, Byron, you got to tell these people that it's economic genocide, because there's a lot of people running around here telling them they can be millionaires. And he said it to you and you still don't believe it. Then I got Sandy Darity, leading intergenerational economist, did a report with him, put it on Fortune magazine, and people still yakking like they they know more than me. Like, at what point do you realize that one person is on Fortune, another person is somewhere else? Whoever it is. I'm saying this on a level of just, I'm not getting paid to do this. I'm in Dash Radio talking to y'all on my free time. I could be at home. Yvette the same way. And we're here to have this discussion and make sure that everybody is able to get into the reality of blackness in America, whiteness in America, wealth in America, so we can try to move the ball forward, not just stand in the same place and be juggling balls thinking that we moving forward. So the next article will kind of cover that. It was on Citylab back in May of 17, 1 year ago, and it was called The 100-Year-Old Penalty for Being Black. The 100-Year-Old Penalty for Being Black. It was an article based on a study by William Collins, an economist, and Marion Wanamaker from the National Bureau for Economic Research. See, I do data. That's what we do, data and studies and all kind of real stuff, substantive stuff, not guesses, not emotional feelings. The next thing is the heir of heirs. Love Dynasty Trust. This is a new article that came out about dynastic trust. Dynastic trust. See, trust usually had to end at a certain point, but because of the raise of the estate tax to $22 million for a couple, all of a sudden what ends up happening is that you can actually have a trust that's forever, that plans for your great grandkids. What's in your trust, black folk? Come on, who you trusting, black folk? The last article is how the wealthiest 1% inherit an average of $4.8 million. So I'm going to get right into this rise of legacy and then let Yvette chime in, give her opinion. You know, Yvette is good for giving me some opinion. So the rise of legacy was a piece I did on Huffington Post, and it was kind of my way of starting this discussion in 2013, where I let you understand it's not just people getting richer, you getting like poor, because it matters more that you come from a slave. What do you mean? So in the 70s, you can come from a slave and then like just not talk about it, and then to get a job at a factory and then buy 2 houses, 3 houses from that job at the factory. Well, we live in a time where you need your grandma to give you some money. I don't care where she come from. And you need your great-great-grandma to have left that money to her. That's where we live right now. I'm not guessing about this. That's what the Diallo chart means. I told you in the report with Sandy Darity that Mark Zuckerberg got his initial investment for Facebook from his dentist father, who is now worth $60 to $70 million from that initial investment. That Jeff Bezos got the initial investment of $300,000 for Amazon from his family who owns major land in Texas. Come on. But you gonna start Facebook without any of that in your black skin. Y'all playing. So here goes a little section. From the roaring 20s to the depressing 30s and back again, America has dealt with cycles of economic growth. But no growth pattern has presented such a possibility of devastating the culture of U.S. capitalism as that which we are on the verge of today. Over the last 30 years, people with a limited means acquired debt that would take more than a lifetime to pay off. A 30-year mortgage at $3,000 to $5,000 a month for a family making less than $70,000 annually is the equivalent to being trapped by your home. The keys that were given by credit markets allowed a generation to dream that hope had actually led to progress, but these keys were in fact a doorway to a kingdom of debt and misguided views of safe self-worth. This is the key part here, Yvette. Legacy's power in the U.S. is interesting in that it is remembered for when it carries gifts of wealth and security, but much more often it bears the unforgiving pain of poverty. Man, it becomes hyper-exaggerated in both directions when laws and policy are designed to expand the gaps between the two groups. Free enterprise cannot be free when it is burdened with the weight of yesteryear, which created mass inequity so directly by law. Slavery and Jim Crow as legal institutions have legacies that not only clogged American capitalism from being truly fair, but it also burdened Black America with heavy social costs. Yvette, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think we have to look at what you just said in terms of the rise of legacy, right? We have to look at that through the lens that people can understand. So it's just not like we're just not talking about some kind of abstract cost of being Black, an abstract cost. Like, I just got an article, somebody just popped into my inbox that says Oprah Inc.'s content deal with Apple. Now, see, people aren't even thinking about the fact that a few years ago we were talking about Oprah owning a network, balling, setting putting on who's going to be doing it, getting behind the desk, being a player, owning this network. Now, remember, you got popped out of that. Now you're back in the seat of providing content for somebody else. I just saw you on a commercial selling mashed potatoes with a table full of white people talking about, show is good. I'm just saying we don't even know the markers that show us, that indicate when somebody has taken a step back to see that, like, even for Oprah, that's your best, right? That's your billionaire, right? Even she's falling back. She's even getting squashed. And she don't have no legacy. She don't drive no industry. She don't have no oil or nothing like that. She has her personality. And once she's done, it's over anyway.
Yvette, you know, I love you because me and you, we vibe. And we vibe for black folk. We did a show on Oprah and we gave our opinion on it. I'm just telling y'all, man, I'm not guessing on what I'm talking about. Y'all don't have to believe it. Y'all gonna feel it though. And so, you know, when I look at this rise of legacy, I don't think we understand the reality of what dynastic wealth is about to do to you and your family. And I'm not saying necessarily that it's about being just dreary about it. I'm not saying don't have a family. I'm not saying don't provide for your family, but you got to be able to love each other regardless of what go down, because it ain't going to all be within your control. It's going to be, the reality is, like, we turning a corner here in America, and that corner ain't pretty. This rise is real. That wealth calcification is real. We have a tax policy, a regressive tax policy, unlike that we've possibly seen ever in the history of America, that's going to set into effect at the top of the year. Y'all need to be having cousins and sisters and brothers that receive food stamps or programs that give back big tax refunds, and having these discussions in November. Actually, y'all need to have them now, but y'all need to have them in November. Don't let them wait till February and find out that them checks ain't as big as they were supposed to be, or they used to be, or they've been their whole adult life. So, you know, I'm gonna move on, and what I'm gonna talk about now is this powerful Citigroup article. You know, this Citigroup article was a trip because, you know, they put, somehow it leaked. They sent it to their high wealth investors, and it leaked out, and it was like an equity strategy article. You know, I'm gonna put some of these links in the actual intro when I get back to the house. But like, what you find is in this article, let me say in this letter, what they say to their investors is, and again, they scrubbed this off the internet. So, you know, they had attorneys and everything that made sure that this wasn't on the internet. So I'm telling you something that came from my treasure trove. The world is dividing into two blocks. This is done by three, it looks like Indians at Citigroup for their high wealth investors. And it's called Plutonomy: Buying Luxury, Explaining Global Imbalances. The world is divided into two blocks, the Plutonomy and the rest. The US, UK, and Canada are the key Plutonomies. Economies powered by wealthy. There is no average consumer in the Plutonomy. Yvette, I'm gonna come to you in a second to talk about the impact of that, how that ties in with Citizens United and so much of the other movements we've seen. Consensus analysis focusing on the average consumer are flawed from the start. Welcome to the Plutonomy machine. In early September, we wrote about the irrelevancies of oil to equities and introduced the idea that U.S. is a Plutonomy, a concept that generated great interest from our clients. The so-called global imbalances that worry so many of our clients, who may subsequently put a lower multiple on equities due to these imbalances, is not as dangerous and hostile as one might think. We will posit that, one, the world is divided into two blocks: the Plutonomies, where economic growth is powered by and largely consumed by the wealthy few, and the rest. Plutonomies have occurred before in the 16th century Spain, in 17th century Holland, in the Gilded Age here in America. That is the other part of Diallo's chart, that during the Depression, right before the Depression. Come on, I just told you about that. In the Roaring 20s in the U.S. What are the common drivers of Plutonomy? Disruptive technology-driven productivity gains, creative financial innovation. Come on, capitalist-friendly cooperative. We project that Plutonomies will likely see even more income inequality, disproportionately feeding off a further rise in the profit share in their economies. In a Plutonomy, there is no such animal as the U.S. consumer. There are rich consumers, few in number, but disproportionate in the gigantic slice of income and consumption they take. Yvette, tell me what the impact of that is, not only on black folk, but just Americans.
Well, the top has everything. Like nearly all the wealth is headed in their hands. And what we don't really understand is part of the problem when people don't understand is when the wealth is held at the top, people say, well, I can still create wealth. No. What they're going to do because they have all of it, that means what they can do is shut the gate. When you have all the wealth, that gives you the power. See, that's what so many people who say we're just negative don't understand. It's about how these people can express themselves, can express their political values, can express their politics, can express how they want to pay labor or not pay labor in this country. They can express that in a way they couldn't have when the bottom 90 had much more wealth, or even the bottom 80. This is why it's important. They can shut the gate, and that's what they have done.
Yeah. And I think for us, we tie that in with Citizens United. And I think for a lot of people, they don't understand that they can give that unlimited money out. And for so many of us, what ends up happening is that we end up in a position where we just waiting for a loophole. We waiting for somebody to save us with $1 million goal dream, with some Bitcoins or some Herbalife. We better get out here and do this politics. Again, Dash Radio, press the Dash Talk app. You can call in at 323-230-4445 if you're trying to call in the other number. I had to jump into this studio rather than the other one for my show. Essentially, as I look at this thing, I don't think we understand the full impact of what's going on. What's happening now is that wealth inequality is pushing us to a point where we don't have enough in the bottom 90. The bottom 90 has 22% of the wealth. Our race is in the bottom third of the bottom 90. And then all of our wealth is in the hand of old boomers. And they not sharing while they alive. And then sometimes they spending it while they alive. So like working age families really don't have no wealth. But this the kicker. Working age black families think that they ain't finna be like the Latinos selling oranges and all that. They finna have Stanford kids and be president. Come on, you got the dreams of the top 3% of America, $1 million dreams. Lint in your pocket, slaves in your background. How you gonna fix that? And so I think in some ways what we gotta try to do is move this ball forward and make sure that everybody does things to help us actually help ourselves. Let's go to break. Dash Radio, Dash Talk, press the Dash Talk button, 323-230-4445 when we come right back. What up, y'all? This is Tone Talks. I'm back. I got two people on the line. All right, what's up, caller? What's your name? Where you calling from?
My name is Will, and I'm calling from Maryland.
What's up, Will? Tell me your take on this whole thing, and then we'll get into the rest of the discussion.
I think it's pretty drastic, especially for us not having any wealth in the first place. And my question was, if I saw a couple videos that America is in decline.
All right, what's up, caller? What's your
name?
And
us being where we are, how will we?
What's up, Will?
How will we? Where do we place in that?
Is that your background, sir? I think we're hearing your background, possibly.
Yeah, I turned it down.
All right. So essentially, you say that one more time. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get everything set up. They moved me in this other studio, and everything's kind of thrown off.
So you're speaking about legacy and hoarding wealth, and the fact that we need government on our side.
Yeah.
So, and it looks like, I don't know how true it is, that America is in decline, and China and other nations are on the rise. So if America declines and essentially falls, where does that place us, and how much benefit can we get from government?
So look, this is the reality. America chugging along. It ain't gonna fall apart like in the next 2 years or 5 years. The problem right now is that we're not positioned correctly. As American DOS, we are not positioned correctly. We should be getting stuff just off top because we built this place. It happens all across the globe sometimes when you talk about reparations and different things. I don't think everybody understands who we are. That's why I wrote an article just last week about African Americans are not just Africans in America. We not. We built this place.
Right.
School should be free.
Right.
I show you I come from a slave, make it free. Figure it out. Figure out how. And so essentially, Let's take this other card and maybe see if it's Yvette Carnell. So essentially, if school is free, then you ain't got to pay. If they help you with that down, then you ain't got to. If they got government contracts so you can start your business, then you good. So essentially, what we have right now is none of that's in place. And so what we trying to do is use income to compete against legacy. Now it don't matter for the white folks that you competing with at UCLA and Stanford because they using money. They paying for school. The reason why school is expensive is somebody paying. So I think less of the concern is about America falling apart, and more of the concern is put me on the top. You know, everybody's like, what? Black people would misuse reparations. There's so many conservative black folk that just be talking loose. How we spend money on Jordans, how we spend up money on Jordans and everything else. Let's try this again. See if Yvette's online. Yvette, are you there? Hello.
This is Leroy from Miami.
Hey, Leroy. I'm sorry. Let me finish this call and I'll get to you right now. So essentially, we don't spend money on Jordans. Look here. Let me tell you this. Everybody gonna get mad at this. But if you buy a $500 Jordan and you know what you're doing, you can make more money than what these people talking about. I'm just going to give it to you straight. I wouldn't do it, but at least it's liquidable. Right. At least you can put it on eBay. I seen people flip 5 for 6 right there. Boom. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's the best thing to do, but like this whole idea that black people are just buying Jordans is just a myth. People ain't out here buying Jordans. You know what they buying? Rent. You know what they trying to do? Survive, buy food.
Yeah.
And so like what we first have is a problem of just black people that are almost conservative. And because they're almost conservative, they essentially are pushing us in a place where we can't do no politics. Y'all hate yourself. Y'all just say it in a different way. Y'all say it in a way where it sounds like Black Lives Matter. Y'all say like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, especially the new wave. It's a new wave of conservatives like the Candace Owens, the Ben Shapiro's, and a few others that are really, taking on in the scene.
Yeah, I agree. And just for everybody to know, Yvette kind of fell off, so I'm just gonna finish the show out with y'all. A lot of this is just like people don't know the data. They don't know. It's not just the data. Because I say that, but that's a simple way of saying they don't know where they live. I don't want to hear from nobody to know where they live. Y'all look at the world to see the world. I see zeros and ones like Neo. I'm just telling you the truth. And I try to tell y'all how to see the zeros and ones too. Ain't no special sauce to it. But when I show it to you, you can't close your eyes and say, I don't want to see them zeros and ones. I want to take that red pill. I want to go back to the Matrix. Right. And so like coming back to it, our concern right now isn't whether America fall apart. It's to put us on top of America. I don't know how else to put it, but you can't say put me on top of America and say put everybody on top. You know that you can't do it that way, or you can't say put me on. What's the point of being rich alone? What's the point of that?
Right.
Everybody looking for a loophole. You know what it's like to be $1 million black person right now? All your family begging you for money and thinking that you government because they don't know what government's supposed to do. I'm saying to you today that what we got to do is collect. We got to get together. We got to push the needle. We got to push back against Trump. We got to demand that if we're going to be with these Democrats, that they look out for DOS, American descendants of slaves. Everybody else got to fight, they fight. That's just my answer, caller. Thank you so much for calling in.
All right. Appreciate you.
Yeah. What's up? Next caller. Leon,
I'm still on.
I'm sorry for putting you on hold. I'm just getting everything set up. I want to keep this show going. So we having this dynastic discussion. I'm going to read this next article with you, and I want you to give me your opinion and give me what you want to talk about.
Okay.
The article is Rich Kids Are Counting on Inheritance to Pay for Retirement. 63% of affluent children between ages 18 and 22 say financial stability and retirement would depend on inheriting money. Before you start growling, consider that this may be a sign of desperation, not greed. The rise in student debt, increased life expectancy, and the many competing priorities for money that are considered a new normal for younger generations have them wondering how they will pay for it all. What this article isn't telling you is what I just showed you in the Diallo chart. They just made income in this lifetime not enough. We living through 3 or 4 lifetimes now. For a quick moment during the 70s all the way into the 80s, you was living on one lifetime was enough to make it look like you didn't come from slavery. Without like big government. Government was there. I'm not saying they weren't. But like now what happens is, government shrinking, income shrinking. So it's like, who gonna pay? Your grandma got something on it or not? Did somebody think about you?
So,
Go ahead.
okay, so we both know this. I follow you, so I know the data. And there's something that you said once on Zoe's show. You said we giggle with white folks. We don't talk to them. And it's funny because I used to work at a law office, and I worked with white folks, and I would have these type of discussions with them. So I know grandma leaving them something. I know mom put down $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on the house, right? I know parents are still paying for their adult children's car insurance, and their adult children are 40 years old, 42, 43 years old, right? So I know these things. And when I first started learning these things, it was depressing because you realize how much you don't have, you know? So that article is not surprising to me at all because I kind of already knew it through life experiences. And then when I started listening to you, it just solidified what I already was learning anyway.
Listen to the rest of this. Not only are members of Generation Z betting on inheritance, but more of them think it can come from someone other than their parents. Some 17% think it could come from friends. Some compared with 4% of people of all ages. Meanwhile, 17% are betting on their grandparents having something in store for them, compared with 6%. What they saying is that I need to get back into that New Deal money. This money weak. I don't think we understand that money don't flow up, it flow down. You talking about you gonna buy your mama a house. She's supposed to be leaving you a house. I'm not saying whether it's her fault that she can't, but the world right now is like built on her leaving you a house. And I'm not saying there aren't some black people out there who can get a house left to them, but it's not large. It's not a big enough number. And so like where we're at now is people say, well, what's the solution? What's the solution to make me so that I can compete too? Transformative government is the only solution to make it big enough for a bunch of black folks to have success. You need money. You want me to give you a house? That's wealth. You want me to give you an education? That's wealth. You asking me to give you money. Money don't grow on trees. What I'm telling you right now is that the reality is the only people that can change the dynamic where you don't need money is government. They can make that school free. They did it before, and it wasn't nothing to go to like UCLA in the late 70s or the early 70s. That wasn't that long ago.
You could pay for that over. I had professors that told me they paid for school just by working throughout the summer. But to address, so talking about what you're talking about and tying that to your video about the Jay Morrison thing.
No, I don't want. Look. I don't want to get into the Jay Morrison this week.
The solution thing, right? So when I hear people say, black people say the solution thing, it's coming from a place of desperation. They're not actually saying they want a solution. It's just a word they throw out to shut you up because they know that for people like you have to explain something long. They want something right now. So solution is their way of saying like,
give me money. It's saying give me money. It's saying give me money. Exactly. Stop telling me that 500 gonna get 40 on it. And so I think I got another caller. I appreciate you calling in. I'm gonna give everybody a chance to speak. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from?
My name is Dwayne. I'm calling from the Midwest.
Hey, Dwayne, come and walk with me. I'm making everybody walk with me on the article. So you're going to walk with me on this one called the 100-year-old penalty for being black. It's from Citylab. Between 1880 and 2010, whites showed much higher rates of upward mobility than blacks, even if their parents started from the same economic position. There is a specific penalty. This is a statement by Mr. Wanamaker, who's actually an economist from the National Bureau for Economic Research. There is a specific penalty for black people, which is independent of whatever income their fathers earned. And that has been constant for over 100 years. After the Civil War, the promise of land as compensation to former slaves never panned out. Freed slaves continued to work on farms, primarily on the South, and they did not own under terrible conditions. Those who did own land often had it taken from them through deception and violence. After Reconstruction, Southern whites retook political control, establishing Jim Crow segregation. Then in the 20th century, even the African Americans who migrated north faced government-approved barriers to housing and schools. In the decades after the Civil Rights Act was passed, the black-white earning gaps decreased. But the momentum didn't last. That's the point I'm telling y'all. If you look at that Diallo chart, between 1968 and about 1983, that was the little sweet spot. So if you got an old mama, like in you my age, you talking to people. My mama was a Gen Xer. But if you got like a mid-aged boomer mom, you don't know that you living in a loophole, that she gave you money. It's different for people who got real Gen X parents. It's different for people living right now without support. And so I continue on and say, in the decade after, to quantify exactly how all of this drove apart the fortunes of black and whites, the researchers focused on economic mobility. In the decade after the Civil Rights Act was passed, the black-white earnings gap decreased, but the momentum didn't last. By the 80s, the gap started to widen again. By 2010, blacks earned just 68% of what whites do. Give me your take on this whole thing and anything else you want to speak on.
Okay, well, my take on it, Tone, is this. I love your show. I don't agree with everything on the show, but who can argue with the data? Here's the thing. By trade, I am a certified financial planner by trade.
Okay.
And I deal and I want to help our people, the baby boomers, where that chart you show where that's where the most of the wealth at for the black people.
Yeah.
Well, when we're out here, if you talk to any black financial planner advisor, when we're out here, they could make $200,000. And you alluded to it earlier when you talked about it's bad for a millionaire, for a black person to be a millionaire. They could make about $200,000, have assets, but the problem is I have clients that their grandchildren, their children, and they're taking care of 2 and 3 generations.
Yeah, you're right.
They're not even going to have money left over for retirement like that. And those, they don't understand the weight by all that what you just said. Those are weights. Invisible weights.
See, and let me say this. Everybody talk about solutions. I don't play. I'm not saying with you. I'm saying generally speaking, everybody told me about solutions. They don't know. Like, look, when Byron gave the second most money to Obama, like he gave a lot of bread to Obama, and so like when he fell out with Obama, it was a lot behind that. But what y'all didn't understand is that Obama's pen was strong, like the executive orders. So like I did a piece with Byron Allen called "The 8 Solutions to Make America Great Again." Put it on Huffington Post. He gave it to Obama. Yeah, like for everybody that's talking about solutions, I wrote a piece on wealth that went to Obama and said, you need to do this for black folks. Problem is, y'all didn't say that he need to do this for black folks. No win. One of those things was you got access. Understand this as a financial advisor, what this could have done for you and any business you want. He said, Obama, you have access to federal pensions. Black people work in the federal government. Make sure that 20% of those pensions land in the hands in the businesses of black-owned financial advisors. President Obama. Do you know what that could? These are solutions that create mega movers out of people like you. And that's what I mean by transformative government. You feel me?
That's right. I feel 100%. And another thing I want to say, I think when you and your vet, you guys are talking about I call them the invisible weights.
Yeah, anchors.
I think that our people don't understand what money is.
No, we don't.
They think money is like $1. They think money is like Bitcoin. They think money like gold. I'm gonna give a freebie tonight. Money is this, and it's simply crazy. Money is your labor and your time expressed and measured in a unit. The unit could be whatever. So when anything is dealing with your labor and your time, you have to understand that slavery took away, that was labor. Mass incarceration, that takes away your time.
Look,
so
caller.
Those are invisible weights.
Let me jump in here because I'm coming to the end, but you a perfect man to bring this to, because it's the last thing I want to talk about. There's an article called Heirs of Heirs of Heirs. It's about how these white people finna do this. And I say white people. Y'all got to understand that out of 20 million families or so, there's 380,000 black millionaires worth $1 million. That's just their pension in their house. You can see somebody worth $1 million without any money for their own like eye surgery or neck surgery. That's how low that is. But understand that 15% of the white families are worth more than $1 million. Understand what I'm saying? 13 million families. And a full million of them are worth more than $10 million. Million families. Oh. And their other, like the way that their kinship networks work, those families that are in the million they're only in the same network. So they don't have family that's poor if they're in the 1 million. And so I'm saying all this to say that there's this new thing called, well, it's not new, but it's been around, but it hasn't been beneficial because the estate tax was set up in a way where you couldn't put as much away. And so now with the changes going into effect where you can put $22 million away as a couple, there's the dynasty trust rising where there's no end to the trust.
Right.
And so,
Exactly.
What are trusts? Most trusts come with expiration dates, allow you to stock money away. Few states, including Delaware and South Dakota, permit trusts that last forever. That allows you to put money away for your great-great-grandkids. You weren't able to do that in a regular trust. The tax overhaul doubled it to $22 million, the amount that can be passed to heirs. Do we understand? Let me ask you, do we understand what that means if they lock in this wealth, if we coming from chattel slaves?
I don't think we have a pure concept what it means. We still think that that wealth is multiplied. Like what you just said there. Like if you have friends, let's say I wanted to go out tomorrow and start a business, and you, my friend, let's say, well, Yvette, y'all my friend, but y'all millionaires. I don't have a business. That means I have some people that I could go to and say, hey, Tom, could you loan me $500,000? Yvette, could you loan me $500,000? Now I got $1 million. I'm gonna pay you back.
Yeah.
Because you guys are in my circle of influence, my circle of network. I can tap into capital, social capital, which you can call it. You can call it social capital. You can tap into that. That's what happens when you have a community of around you. That's why you need politics to put up protection. One of the worst things that I cringe whenever I hear about us in any industry. When you ever hear I'm the only black or I'm the first black, what that tells me is that you have no allies. That you can be out of business by tomorrow because if they can politicize and come against you and drive you out of business, and many times that's what happens.
Hey, caller, let me say this, man. This is the end of the show. I appreciate you calling in. I appreciate you calling in. Next week, we're going to talk about Jay Morrison and the Tulsa Real Estate Fund. It's open for him to call in. We're going to hopefully be back in our own studio. Let me say this. The man made a great point. It's a reason to take 10,000 people to get 10 million versus 2. That's a lot of phone calls, even a 10% call in. You ready for 1,000 phone calls? We're going to have a whole discussion about this. I invite Jay Morrison or his team to call in and have the discussion. We're going to talk about everything on the table, the fund, how it's doing, how he projects, everything that I said in the video. We're going to get to it. I'll see y'all next week. Thank you for tuning in to Tone Talks.